Hello, welcome back to Emerge, the health podcast for busy, high performing women. I'm your host, Dr. Alex Swenson Ridley. Today, I wanted to talk about something I have been ruminating over for the last couple of weeks. And what I've been doing is really taking a deep look at what is it that have the women who are wildly successful in their time working with me in terms of really taking control of their health, losing weight if they need to lose weight, finding their energy, feeling like themselves again, finding their confidence in their body and who they are. I've had women change careers, do all this incredible, I was going to say crazy, but incredible stuff. And I've been, looking at what sets them apart from those that maybe still struggle. Because let's be honest, I'm not, the guarantee that you're definitely gonna get results. But what it really comes down to, and I've talked about this before, but is who they really take on being. And a lot of what that comes through in who they really take on and in terms of how they approach themselves and their life and making changes and all this stuff is really they're cultivating courage, confidence, and clarity. Courage to do the hard stuff, to do the hard work, to look at themselves. I'm going to share a couple stories here in a second. Confidence that they are going to succeed, and confidence in starting to believe in themselves even when that's been really hard to do, and then clarity to really get clear on where they're going. And so this has really become, I've been doing personally a lot of my own work just in looking at the process and what I do, and the parts I love and the parts that maybe aren't great, and really moving away. I talk a lot about, we should stop shouldn't we should stop shooting ourselves. We need to stop shooting ourselves. And we do that in health and how we live life. And for those of us in business, we can do that in business too. It's like, oh, so and so says you should do a funnel like this, so we build the funnel like that. But it's not necessarily aligned. Then you can do it with how you're eating, with exercising, all of that. And so I've been looking at that in terms of business and what I do a lot. And it's been really a fun exploration. And as I've been doing that, I've had some women do some really amazing things, and I'm so proud of them. And so I just thought I would share three stories this morning, one in each different vein. I say this morning because that's when I'm recording this. You're listening to this whenever I realize. But the first, I have a woman I've been working with. We're on a plan for a year, and we're probably about 8 months into that now. And most of our conversations have centered around the level of stress she's had at her job. She's an accountant, and she was at a job where even not during tax season, she's been working 50 to 60 hours a week because her firm doesn't have enough staff, and just isn't set up to handle the load that they're trying to handle, and it all gets put on her because she's, kind of the head honcho in terms of knowing how to do everything. And we finally got to the point where she felt like nothing was going to change, and she was willing to start looking at, okay, what if I were to get a different job, and what would I really want, and how do I start looking? And in the process of doing that, someone called from a company that she has worked for previously, her old boss, and was like, hey, you need to apply for this job that had come open. And so long story short, she actually put in her notice and just transitioned last week. I think the beginning of this week she's starting this new job, so that was huge. And in terms of health, the amount of stress was keeping her from just keeping her stuck, we'll put it that way. It's and all of us experience this. It's really hard to make change when you are also dealing with super high levels of stress. Doesn't mean that you have to quit your job or leave your marriage or any of these big things. No, but what I will say is that it takes the courage to look at the things that are contributing and maybe you're tolerating, that are not working as well as they should be, or that they need to be for you to really be healthy and happy. I've shared my journey with this plenty on here. And so the courage piece comes in, and having the courage and the confidence to say it's okay to do something else, right? And so that was the first story I wanted to share. The next one is a younger, most of the women I work with are in their 40s and 50s. I have a couple women that I work with who are in their 30s and even younger than me. I'm in my late 30s. So she's more in her early mid 30s. And, we're near at the end of our process. But on our last call, she brought up, and, she just felt she was in a place where she was comfortable, but she was like, my dad died a couple years ago, and I've really been thinking about, I never let myself breathe. Like, I just avoid it. And a lot of this is because I've been talking about I like to bring up topics that make you think, right? So we put together a plan where, she committed to making time and doing some writing, and she actually wrote a letter to her dad. There's a lot of, mistrust and betrayal and some stuff that happened just around how he passed because they hid that he was sick for a long time. And so it was rather a shock. And she recognized that that's a level of trauma. And so she's had the courage to carve out the time and to do the work and let herself just sit in the uncomfortable of her feelings around all of that and allow herself to process finally. And so many of us are so afraid of doing that. I think I talked a couple weeks ago about, how we use achievement or use something else to, whatever we're driven to do. We're using it to a lot of us. If you're a high achieving woman listening to this show, you probably have something that you're doing this with. But we're using it to hide and not address the thing that we really need to. Because it's scary and it's hard, and but the payoff on the other side of actually doing that work, for both of these clients that we've talked about so far, the release on the other side, even when they're still kind of going through the transition, there's just this like huge like you can breathe again and the excitement is back and you're feeling more in control. Not that control's a figment of our imagination, but there's just so much power in deciding to actually turn into and walk into the hard stuff and not continue to hide. And the last story I wanted to share, and talking about this was another client of mine. I'm a firm believer, and a lot of the work I do has evolved in this. And I realize I don't really talk about exactly what I do that often on the show, so maybe it's time. But I have a program. It's evolved from like 3 to 6 months to now it's a year. And in that year, it's called the Chrysalis Incubator. And what that means is chrysalis is, the cocoon where a caterpillar grows into a butterfly, right? And so we create, you can't push pause on your life, but we create a safe space and a cocoon for you to really work on and get to know yourself and have breakthroughs. And so there's a core part of that, which is where this courage, confidence, and clarity comes from. And there are steps that we have to take in order to really get to the point where you have that. And then there's breakthroughs in different areas that we work through, in conjunction with really nailing the core curriculum. And the last client I wanted to share about, she's someone I've known for quite a few years. She's back from my chiropractic days in Alaska and beautiful woman, beautiful soul. Like I just love her. And so she's really taken herself on this year. She's like, this is the time, I'm doing it. And, we've hit the point where we started taking some things out of her diet because that's one of the things I do. Nothing, nothing crazy. We're not super restrictive or any of that, but, we take a break from things. And I look at this as an opportunity to learn and explore for ourselves. And so, she just hit the point of taking out refined sugars and she messaged me and she was like, holy crap. um, because it brought up for her all of this stuff that she's been holding on to where she always has to be okay and she uses sugar as a crutch. She's got a lot of trauma in her history, and there's a huge connection between almost punishing herself with food and keeping herself stuck a certain size and all this because it was a way that she actually protected herself, and part of her drive to just always be okay. And so she's really taken on, it's okay to not be okay. There's a song by Imagine Dragons. My son loves Imagine Dragons. We took him to a concert, and I hadn't heard the song before, and they sang it. But it's like, they're saying it's okay to not be okay. And so much of us live in a life where we're like, no, I have to be okay. I'm okay. I'm not lonely. What are you talking about? That was me. Like when I was going through my divorce, someone asked me if I was lonely, and I was like, no, total bull, right? There's lots of ways that we lie to ourselves. And so this particular client, like, she's just allowed herself to sit in the muck, and, her mood hasn't necessarily been the greatest, but she's also not trying to hide behind a facade of pretending like she's okay when she's really not. And, she's learning how to navigate her marriage and, relationships with her kids and all of that inside of that, and that's amazing to me. And again, with every single woman that, all these 3 stories that we've just talked about, each of them at some point along the journey had the courage to look at the hard stuff and get really clear and build their confidence inside of knowing that they can move past it and not continuing to hide from it and, stay stuck in the mud and all of that. So I just wanted to share those as, we'll keep this brief. I know I gave you like a whole bunch of whole bunch of pack to think about. And I really invite you, I am here to share and to build relationships. This is part of what I've been thinking about. A lot of the marketing and stuff that I've been doing, not like any of it's, bad or wrong. It's just it's not feeling fully aligned with me. So what I really want to do is just invite you into conversation. And there's two ways you can do that at the moment. One is to jump on a call, with me one on one and just it's a clarity call. Like there's no sales, anything. I'm here to support you. Like if any of this stuff sparked anything for you and you just want someone to talk through it with and get some direction and clarity. That's what that's for. And then the other is where my wheelhouse really is, and what I absolutely love and am passionate about is leading small group discussions and facilitating that. It's a huge part of the program now. We have multiple group calls a week, and I just love them so much. And I get such amazing feedback from people. So I actually decided to open up creating that kind of experience and inviting women who aren't necessarily my clients into that world. And so we have something called a courage, clarity, and confidence roundtable. And what a roundtable is it's a small group. There's no more than 10 women in it. And I'm not here to sell you anything. I facilitate a discussion around, what are we struggling with in our health? What support do you need? And really build connection among other women, which is a huge area where a lot of us struggle, that's not just, meeting someone and surfacey, but actually goes deep. So if you'd like to join, either jump on a call with just me or join one of those small group experiences and really have an experience where you can start to bring some of the stuff up and, maybe face some of the things you've been hiding from, please do that. There's links to both in the show notes. The web addresses are not something that's easy for me to rattle off. So definitely check the show notes, click on it. I don't make it hard to sign up for either one. But, I would love to see you in any of those scenarios and just get to know you, I'm here to build relationship connection, hopefully inspire you, and that is really what I live to do. So, with that, we will see you next week.